What is up, people? This is Abraham Walker with Ask A Walker, your Northern Virginia real estate agent. I am here with my son, Abraham Walker II. He turned 16 in a couple months, and we want him to come into the real estate business. And I thought it would be a good idea to have him kind of do tag-alongs with me to get an understanding of how the real estate industry works. So today was his first day ever meeting a home inspector, and also you got to witness a home inspection, or really a walk and talk consultation, which is a variation or derivative of a home inspection process. So Abraham, how was your experience today?
It was nice, very informative. I'd always heard my parents speaking about home inspections, and I just heard the word floating around, but I had never seen it before. And now that happened, I have a better understanding of what a home inspection is, why a client would want a home inspection, and why it's required to have a home inspection as well. Gotcha.
So we thought it would be a good idea to kind of share this video on our channel, our YouTube channel, and we'll watch Abraham grow and develop as a real estate agent. Okay, so Abraham, what'd you learn today?
We'll just go down the list.
We can go down the list and we'll have a conversation around it.
First, Mr. Seth was very knowledgeable and helpful with all my questions.
Seth, tell us about the worst thing you ever seen that happened from a walk and talk inspection or from somebody not doing one.
Well, I think the worst thing that I saw was a house. They bought the house and could not get the home inspection or anything in on the contract. So I was doing an inspection after they had bought it, and they had severe rot from water intrusion underneath the front door. The deck posts were so rotted that I could stick my hand underneath the post. The furnace and the water heater were almost 30 years old. So I found probably around $50,000 worth of repairs or upgrades that needed to be done to that house in the very near future. That these people had no idea were there. So it's important to get someone who knows what they're doing to take a look at the house and see what's there. With the walk and talk consultation, it's not a full inspection, not going to go into the depth that we do with the full inspection, but at least we're going to take a look and see the age of the major components, like the water heater and the furnace, take a look inside the electric panel, and we're really looking to see if we see signs of major structural movement, that sort of thing. Going to take a look in the attic, try and see how many squirrels are living in there, but we're going to get a good idea of the age of the roof and condition, and outside looking at the drainage around the house. That's going to be the major things that are going to affect the house, and that's what we're going to do in a walk and talk consultation. Whereas the home inspection is going into more in depth about where major valves are, what kind of pipes you have, running every appliance in the house, that sort of thing.
Excellent. How long does it take to complete a walk and talk consultation?
Will take anywhere from 45 minutes to about an hour and 15.
45 minutes to an hour and 15. Do you recommend that the client attend this session?
Absolutely. They should be there, because you're not going to get a report with the walk and talk, whereas you do with the home inspection. So you need to be there to take notes, to see what I'm talking about. So it's very highly recommended that the client be there for the walk and talk consultation.
And on our end, usually we see clients ordering these before they put an offer in, or as a sign that they are going to put an offer on the property.
Right, that's what I'm seeing too. A lot of times people, there may have been turned down on a couple of offers already, and so they just want to get something quick and easy to determine what kind of offer they should put in. Is this house worth putting a bid in on, or is it one I just want to go, no, we'll let somebody else have that problem?
Gotcha. Thanks, Seth.
Sure, anytime.
Okay, so the home inspector is usually a person who is used to speaking with people as far as buyers are concerned. So it's important for you, if you're doing a home inspection, to ask your home inspector questions throughout the entire process. You don't want a home inspector who isn't willing to be friendly and welcoming and open to answer your questions. And this is one of the reasons why we use Seth, and Seth also displayed that today with Abraham. Okay, what else you have on the list?
Second, radon is the second most common lung cancer killer in the world. There was a radon tank or radon ventilation system underneath the house that pumped out of the side of the house. And me and my father went and did a walking tour on this property a couple days ago. And he explained to me that it was a radon system thing, but I didn't know what radon was, so I asked the home inspector what it was. And then he told me that it is a natural gas that occurs under the ground. And with certain houses, maybe not every house in this community, which is Lake Terrapin, one would have one, but some of these will. There's radon built up underneath the ground, so when they build the house on top of it, the radon slowly leaks out, and you need a radon system, ventilation system, to pump the radon out of the ground and outside the house, because otherwise it will fill the house with the radon, it will breathe it in, and then you'll collect lung cancer.
You could potentially. Yes, it's the second leading cause of lung cancer, right behind smoking cigarettes. Yes, so that's one of the things he learned today. And this home that we're looking at, that my client is looking at, it already has a radon mitigation system installed. And so it pumps the air from underneath the basement floor or the foundation, and then it removes that air out of the property and dispels that air with a fan above your roof line, so it could just get it out into the atmosphere and you have less exposure to it. So it doesn't reduce the exposure to zero. It reduces the exposure to a level that's within an acceptable amount.
Okay.
What else do you have?
Next, I have the basement windows are trash, but that doesn't really matter that much.
Gotcha.
The basement is, in this property right here, is an unfinished basement. So there are no walls, there's no bathroom in there. And the windows, they look to be the same age as the property. Unlike the windows on the upstairs level, which are newer. But Mr. Seth said that doesn't matter as much, because especially how they use it. He used it almost as like a little gym and just storage. So they had no need to replace the windows. But if you were moving here and had more plans, maybe a plan to finish the basement, you'd want to replace the windows.
Okay, so you kind of got the gist of what Mr. Seth was saying, but he was saying that the windows in the basement don't matter as much because of the size of the window.
Oh, because of the size?
Yes, because of the amount of space the window takes up. It's not letting in that much air, or you're not losing that much energy from that window compared to a traditional window that is much larger, and then you have to be much more concerned. So those basement windows are usually builder grade for a reason, because they're not as important, especially in unfinished space like the property that we are in front of right now, that the basement is unfinished. So there really isn't a need to keep that space as climate controlled as your main living level or your bedroom level. So that is one of the reasons why he made that statement. Okay, what else you have?
Next, copper and steel. There were copper pipes for, was that the gas pipes?
That was the water line.
The water line was copper, and then there were steel pipes right next to them. And there was a little slip of folded paper in between them so they wouldn't touch, because otherwise, if they are kept touching for years, a hole will erode, and I believe the copper, he said.
And the copper, yes. This is something I learned today too for the first time. Mr. Seth is full of useful information. The fact that if you have two different types of metal touching each other, then one of the metals will corrode the other metal quite quickly. And so there was a piece of paper that was between these two pieces of metal to stop them from touching, which also, I guess, stops the chemical reaction from occurring.
Because what he said, the chemical reaction comes from the ions between the metals not switching. So they were like clashing together. So one of the metals, I would assume the metal with the most ions, would corrode a hole into the other one.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Very interesting. Then the expansion tank, there was an expansion tank above the water heater. He said that it should be pressurized to match the hot water heater, and should also be supported. The water heater was, like, let's say the water heater was like this. The tank was just, there was a lot, there were a pipe, another pipe, and then the tank was just floating in the air. He said you should put like a 2x4 on top of the water heater to go underneath the pipe for the tank, so it could be supported, so it doesn't like fall down or anything like that, because it was just like a thin copper pipe for the water. And he also said that it should be pumped. The water heater is pumped to, like, he said 80 what? I don't know.
PSI?
80 PSI. And the, what's it called? The expansion tank was only pumped to 40 PSI. And he said that when you get an expansion tank, you should pump it to match the water heater, because otherwise it will be filled with water. When he tapped it with, I think it was his flashlight, it was filled with water when it should have had air in it. And he said that was something that most people don't pump their expansion tanks with air.
Yeah, one of the common things I see is newer hot water heaters not having an expansion tank altogether, which is not the way they're supposed to be installed if they're new. So you can usually tell the age of a hot water heater by the very fact that it has an expansion tank. But some plumbers do not install expansion tanks for reasons. I mean, usually the homeowner doesn't know that it's supposed to be installed, and so they can kind of get away with that. And then if you do have an expansion tank installed, you usually want to see that expansion tank supported by, usually see it has straps on it that are attached to the ceiling, or Mr. Seth in this scenario here suggested that you just put a 2x4 underneath the pipe that holds the expansion tank or connects to the expansion tank, and then that would act as support, because when the expansion tank expands and it takes on that overflow of some additional water, it starts to get a little heavy, it has some weight to it, and then it could apply pressure to the pipe that is currently supporting it. So that's why you want to see some type of strap or 2x4. And then also Mr. Seth said that most plumbers don't even install the expansion tanks correctly because they don't pressurize the tanks, and then they're just empty. So it's very common for these things to not be installed properly, which is also a reason why you want to get a home inspection. All right. What else?
Then he said the caulk in the bathroom needs to be redone. The caulk, which is the lining on the tubs and the showers to make sure the water doesn't seep in and destroy the foundation of the tubs and the showers, it was cracked and needed to be redone within, I don't know what the time period was, but he just said it needed to be done. And I found that interesting because on our kitchen sink, or really where we dry our dishes.
You talking about your personal kitchen sink?
Yes, our personal kitchen sink where we dry our dishes. We needed to redo the caulk because with our old hang drying system, it would leak water on the sides, and then the caulk was rotting and it cracked. So me and my mother and my brother, we redid the caulk around it. And I didn't know that was a thing that needed to be done around bathrooms and other stations where water is pumped.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Anything else?
No.
Is that it? Perfect, perfect. So yeah, so I'm thinking that we post a couple of these videos up every time something interesting happens to Abraham or he has a new experience. And this will also be a great way for me to talk about to give more clarity to whatever's going on here, because I've been doing this right now. I've been doing this for 15 years and all of this stuff just seems normal to me. But having you here reminds me that I learned all this stuff. And when I learned this stuff originally, it was quite interesting. And I didn't notice it was interesting because I was, trying to make money and I was working, right? So now having you here reminds me, why do I like this industry, or why do I like this profession? And one of the reasons that I like this profession is because there's so many things going on. There's so many components to it. It's not just one thing, right? That's cool. Do you have anything else you want to share with the people?
I think that it's interesting that a lot of people don't try to persuade their kid to come into their industry. The only industry that I've seen adults persuade their kids to getting into is teaching. A good amount of the teachers at the high school I went to, Hayfield, there would be a teacher and then their daughter, usually daughter or son, would also teach there at the same time. My geometry teacher, her daughter was also a geometry teacher. And I think that teachers, this is something that other professionals could learn, is teaching your children why you love your job, why they should come into it. And also I think it makes sense to get your kid into your business because there are things that you could provide them that starting a new business, they wouldn't be able to get, like different perks, tips on how to rise up in the company, things that that would take much more time to just learn when you could just teach your kid that instead.
Excellent. Well, thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you on the next video.
Peace.
Peace.